want a piece of me?
Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
Good morning, Vietnam! I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
I feel the need for speed.
I wish I knew how to quit you.
Love means never having to say you're sorry.
You do. You'll shoot your eye out, kid.
Happy Monday, movie fans, movie lovers, and movie listeners. We are the Cine-Men Movie Podcast, and we are back with a brand new episode. I'm one of your hosts, Zach. I'm here with one of my good friends, Ed. How are you doing,
how's
Ed?
it going?
Craig will join us here in a little bit. But once again, Ed, you got your wish because we're talking about a movie that you've been trying to get us to review for quite some time.
Yeah.
The Princess Bride, which it'll be a fun conversation.
I think so. So with this episode, it wasn't just my idea. I do like this movie quite a bit, but an old supervisor of mine, who is now a colleague now, I guess, was like, I can't take y'all seriously unless y'all do The Princess Bride.
And
I was
fast
just like,
forward 4 years later, almost.
that was about 2.5 years ago that conversation went down. And then like a month later, I think I did bring it up to Johnny and was like, dude, we do need to do The Princess Bride. Like it's that kind of movie. So yeah I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. It's going to be a fun conversation, especially since this is, without a doubt, probably a cult classic film that a lot of people love and adore. Do you have a good weekend, Ed? Besides dodging tornadoes last night?
Oh no, I was fine. I got rain soaked basically. Like I was calling a lot of people and even sent a text and stuff like that. I live on the east side of town, so where I live, I think it was 3 miles away from me, for that matter, north.
Yeah, you missed a
at
lot
least.
of it, I think.
But we got pea-sized hail at maximum. But where I work, however, literally was on the, knife edge of the storm that hit around 10th and all that. It was on the knife's edge. So much so, in fact, that I am at least the current person who has access to the cameras and surveillance system. So I got to go in and last night look around 9:15, 9:30, and bro, that it was nuts. Because you've got a point in time where it is calm and cool, whatever, and then just it goes nuts for like.
Yeah, I bet the security footage looked really good.
It was
interesting to watch, I guess.
Well, to a degree, it didn't have a perfect angle on it, but it had a good angle. And I mean, there was sirens and lights and all kinds of stuff going everywhere. So it was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you, man?
Well, it's we're kind of in that time of the year where it's starting to it's just something we're gonna have to deal with for a while. We got Craig hopping aboard.
Welcome.
Hey, how's it going, bro?
But other than that, I mean, my weekend was pretty good. Craig, how you doing?
Oh, we chilling.
Hey, you see?
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Hey, Craig.
Yeah, I see it.
20 hours in.
So, yeah, 20 hours in. Other than that, Craig, did you have a good weekend?
I did. Yeah, I did.
Good.
I did.
Well, we're gonna go ahead and get into it, guys. Any recent watches or anything you've played? Obviously, Ed, I know you want to talk about the Hogwarts game. We'll start with you first.
So watching, for that matter, since this is mainly a watching kind of thing. Other than watching Princess Bride, basically it's been South Park a lot. I convinced my wife finally to get into it, and I think it was 2 weeks ago because I haven't seen you on about that time. Yeah, we've watched like 9.5 seasons, I think, so far.
Oh wow!
So
Out of eight trillion seasons of television,
I think it's on 26, if I'm not
26,
mistaken.
27 maybe.
Somewhere around there, yeah. Mid to late 20s.
It's on a lot. I know
Yeah.
that.
And then,
Hogwarts Legacy.
how's the game? I know you guys have been texting about it in the thread. So,
man, so I don't know how long Craig is, but I'm in 20 hours plus. I'm level 24. 24 now. Going through a lot. 29% completion. So, yeah. And yeah, I'm Hufflepuff. So take that with
you know Slytherin over here. We jamming over here in the common.
Hey, that's all right. You know, if you're into dungeons and all that, go to Slytherin. If you're into barrels, come over to Hufflepuff. You know.
Craig, anything you want to recommend, watch, play, anything like that?
Ed, you're going to be proud of me.
Uh-oh.
So not only am I about 25 hours in to Hogwarts Legacy.
Heck yeah.
I have watched all 3 Fantastic Beasts movies.
Oh.
I have watched Prisoner of Azkaban and the one after it.
Goblet of Fire.
Goblet
of Fire. I've watched those 2. I watched the 3 of those. Watched Princess Bride for today's episode.
Busy.
Yeah, I've played a ton of. There's a game called Naraka. It's a Japanese lore with it's like a PvP with melee weapons and whatnot. So I've been playing that a lot. Been playing Chill. Been
my boy
going to countless birthday parties. As we all know, February's been busy for me. Yeah, I mean, just things here and there on the side as well. Like Last of Us. I'm not caught up with last night's episode, but other than that, I'm caught up. Just kind of been watching a lot of stuff here and there. Nothing really like sticking other than just kind of getting into the Harry Potter stuff.
Nice. What do you think about the Fantastic Beasts movies? So
I enjoyed them. I was hoping that a 4th will be made. I know there's talk that there probably won't be a 4th made, but
yeah.
However, I do know.
I think it was technically supposed to be a 5-picture deal. I think.
I think it was. Not 100% sure where it's going now. However, what I do know is this. Hogwarts Legacy 2 is already greenlit. And HBO Max. Yeah, I know, right? I think it sold like
12 million copies in the first day.
Yeah. Like, it's insane. Not only that, but what I have heard through the grapevine is that HBO Max is even thinking about picking it up for a series.
Oh, there you go.
So we'll see how that goes. I mean,
the Harry Potter lore, it's working for me right now. I don't know what it is. I didn't think the game was going to be any good. I knew it was going to be all right. I didn't know I was going to be this heavy into it.
Right? Yeah. To me,
25 hours into it.
The best way, to describe this game right now is kind of Harry Potter's take on Skyrim. To me,
so it's kind of like free. Like
it's free roam.
Not free room, but free roam, like an open world type thing.
Oh yeah, it's free roam. You can either choose to do all the quests you want and just go through the main line as fast as possible. You can do all the side quests that you want. You can go and just I mean, obviously there's steps down the line that you don't just get everything handed to you on a silver or golden platter for that matter. Like,
right.
You know, you have to build up your rooms, you have to build up, you know, your wardrobe, and you have to build up your spells, you have to build up, like, you're a fresh student coming in and you are a fifth year, yeah. Which is very, very strange, but apparently there are reasons for it, and I will not spoil that. But as far as, you know, you going to get to do spells everywhere and fighting other wizards and fighting beasts that want to kill you and harvest your body for food time and all kinds of other weird stuff. This is kind of, even in my eyes, the game I've been waiting for. Like, this is, I don't know if either one of you have played the OG PlayStation Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone.
Yeah, I've seen it.
So this is that combined with Skyrim
graphics. Yeah.
Oh yeah, fantastically better, like immensely better graphics. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I know. Obviously, I know it's very, very popular. I've been seeing ads for it all over every time I watch television. So it's something that I'm sure I'm a Harry Potter fan. I'd probably get into it if I had a PlayStation 5. So,
one thing that I do think is hindering this game is the PS5 and Xbox Series X came out early February. PS4 and Xbox One have to wait until April 2nd. And then Nintendo Switch is in like June.
Yeah. And I thought it was April 4th.
It might be April 4th.
Somewhere in early April.
it's the fact that they're having 3 different tiers of it being released. It kind of hinders it for a lot of people.
I think that might even be, and I mean, correct me because you're the guy who knows this a lot more than probably any of the other 3 of us do, but maybe that's for server reasons.
No. I just think they got it set up and ready for next gen, and then they were like, you know what, we should probably release a last gen. So there was limitations on the last gen, and they had to correct those before they could put it out.
But I mean, hey, it's making people such as myself go and buy this thing. My wife calls it the tower so lovingly. But
the 2 towers, yeah.
We could put ours together and make
some of my recent watches, it's kind of brief for me. The Princess Bride, I rewatched Creed. I'm gonna watch the first 2 before we go see Creed 3. And I've been still on Home Improvement about halfway through season 6.
Stupid.
Out of 8 seasons. It's a fun show. It's definitely cheesy 90s nostalgia, but it's still funny. It makes me laugh. So
next this Friday, Demon Slayer. Ed, you into Demon Slayer?
No, I have not gotten into it, but I definitely have actually thought about that.
They got a new movie coming out for Demon Slayer, so I'll be watching that. It'll be a double feature: Demon Slayer,
Creed 3 and Demon Slayer. And then we start talking about Creed 3. It's like, well, Demon Slayer is like, oh, I guess you went and saw the wrong movie. Craig, look back at last week's episode, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I still hold to my opinion. It has some problems tonally, but I think it's a fun film. So, Ed, did you get a chance to see it?
No, there was a lot of problems at work that I had to go in and fix. So I did not get to that day. And I am waiting on funds after that.
That would hinder the movie-going experience. But yeah, usually. Craig, did your opinion change after a week's thinking about it, or is it to kind of stay the same?
The movie probably is a little lesser, in my opinion. I still think it's fun. I still think everything was there for it to be great. I just don't think it hurts it. It hurts it for the reason of Kang being in a solo film when we all know that Kang isn't going to die or anything. In that solo film, we know nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
So it kind of hindered it in that aspect because you weren't 100% sure what was going to happen. But other than that, there's issues, but it's still fun.
Yeah. Totally agree. Ed, if the good listener wants to reach out to us, whether through social media or email, how would they do that?
Man, it is too easy. You have got to have one of these for that matter. So Facebook.com/The Cine-Men Movie Podcast. That is CINEMEN Movie Podcast. Instagram, you can go ahead and reach us at the same /The Cine-Men Movie Podcast. Twitter is CINEMEN 405. And the email, of course, if you want to send in any of your picks, any of your thoughts, suggestions, or as well as your top 5, email us at Cine-Men921 at gmail.com. That is CINEMAEN921 at gmail.com. Send your thoughts our way.
Thank you, Ed. As always,
sir.
send us some emails, send us some tweets, messages, whatever the kids are doing nowadays. But guess what, guys? It's been a while, but we have a top 5 today, and it's been quite a long time. So let's get into our top 5 80s romantic comedies. All right, guys. So, like I said, The Princess Bride, it's very much a romantic comedy and a lot of different aspects. So, let's dedicate our top 5 to the top 5 80s romantic comedies, and anything that came out in the 80s goes. So, does anyone have any honorable mentions to start off with?
Negative.
All right. So, Ed, let's go ahead and start with you. Number 5.
16 Candles. I mean, you almost can't get more 80s than that. I think there's only one other movie that gets more 80s than that, and it's not a rom-com. Well, maybe 2, actually. But, yeah, 16 Candles is just 80s as they come, man.
Yeah, I totally agree. It'll show up It'll show up later on mine. Number 5 for me, Can't Buy Me Love. Patrick Dempsey, Amanda Peterson, Seth Green, which I forgot he was even in that movie.
Young Seth Green too.
Yeah, very much the nerdy guy tries to get with the cheerleader. You know, it's a very cliche theme, but that was definitely the hype of the 80s. A lot of movies revolved around that. And it works. I still think it works to this day. So number 5, Can't Buy Me Love. Craig, what's your number 5?
I'm going to be honest. It's hard to rank these because I haven't seen a lot of these in quite some time. So I'm just gonna kind of go with what I remember.
Wing it.
If a movie doesn't kind of fit in that genre, then sue me. Number 5 for me is going to be Risky Business.
Okay.
Tom Cruise.
Oh, Cruise himself.
It was under the rom-com genre, so
hey, that's all that it takes.
Very nice. Ed, what's your number 4?
You can never put Baby in a corner. You can't. Number 4, Dirty Dancing. Man, Patrick Swayze embodied that, tough guy but mysterious dude at the same time. It's cool because it makes you wonder what he'd be doing today if he were still alive. And I mean, this is what, 06 to 2023 now that he's passed, I think.
17 years?
Yeah.
09.
Crazy.
2009.
Okay,
yeah.
So 12 years, or 14 years, sorry. But still, either way, that's still a considerable amount of time, and I think he would still be doing very, very good. I think he'd probably even be in the Marvel Cinematic Universe at this point, possibly. But who knows? We don't get that.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Don't even know. But yeah, Dirty Dancing, number 4.
Now that you actually say that, I could actually see him playing Hank Pym, Michael Douglas's character in Ant-Man. I think that could work actually, in a weird way.
Or maybe even Ego.
Yeah, Ego.
Possibly Ego. Oh.
My number 4, Tom Hanks classic, Big. I mean, 12 years old, you make a wish, you're a grown up, you get to live the adult life without any consequences to a certain extent. And I mean, who doesn't like to dance on a big piano? I mean, that's fair. Enough said.
I mean, literally, that's it. Is that a pun with the?
See what I did? Yeah. So number 4 is Big. Craig, what's your number 4?
Number 4 for me is going to be. I'll go with The Breakfast Club.
There you go.
Number 4 for me is going to be The Breakfast Club.
in a weird way, that is a romantic comedy, even though it's more of a teen drama, but it's all those combined. So, Ed, number 3.
Number 3, I'm gonna ride your coattails. Big, man. Seeing that kind of thing go on with the piano, for that matter, or any of the things like with his friend, coming in and he's got to do the God, I don't remember the whole dance and say the song for that matter, but it is kind of a thing to where like, okay, what if one of us transformed into a kid, little for that matter, and we're trying to get on here and all that. Like, how would we explain that I am who I say I am to everybody?
I'm really surprised that they haven't done that, honestly, as a spinoff. Little, just do that. Just do the same thing. Just flip it on its head.
Hey,
Hollywood, contact us. We got ideas.
17 again might have already taken that though.
Oh yeah, technically, yeah, that's true. But number 3, we're talking about today, The Princess Bride. So we'll get into it. Ed, Craig, what's your number 3?
Number 3 for me is going to be Weird Science.
Ah.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
Nice.
Ed, number 2.
Number 2 for me, more comedy than romantic, but romantic still nonetheless. Coming to America. Man, that one was very cheeky and very just cheesy, but it done right, and it done well for that matter. Gotta say, you love it. You love to see it, and I mean, Eddie Murphy. That's all there is to it.
Very, very, very popular Eddie Murphy at that point.
Yeah, I know, and I mean, just had Coming to America 2, last year?
I think 2021. I think 2021. Yeah.
So, got a sequel after how many years?
Yeah. Well, from what I heard, it probably should have been left alone, but it is what it is. Number 2, I think you have to have this movie if you're going to talk romantic comedies, is When Harry Met Sally. Billy Crystal, Meg Ryan, classic film. And ironically, I think it's only like an hour and like 20, 30 minutes. So it's a very in and out film with 2 great performances. So number 2, When Harry Met Sally. Craig, what's your number 2?
Number 2 for me is going to be the movie we're talking about today, Princess Bride.
Very nice. And then Ed, your number 1 80s romantic comedy.
So I'm gonna kind of ride on coattails of Craig this time in a way. I didn't know if it would be considered or wouldn't be considered. Some might not. But The Breakfast Club, man. I don't think an 80s movie is more 80s than The Breakfast Club. I really don't. I mean...
Oh, no.
What?
Nothing. My list got messed up. Keep going. I'm sorry.
I don't think you have another movie that could compete as far as generation and decade-wise with that movie. And I'm not talking like, I'm talking just specifically like that, like defines the 80s.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's fair enough. And, we did an episode on it back in 2019, I believe. So
I think so.
Almost 5 years ago. Seems that's hard to believe. Damn.
Right.
Number 1, I'll just go ahead and say it. That was your number 5, Ed. 16 Candles. Really, really love this movie. That's very much. I think it's my favorite John Hughes movie, to be honest. And like I said, it's very much the geeky girl. In this case, the geeky girl tries to get with the jock, which is kind of flips it on its head, but it works all the same. John Hughes's direction and screenplay, very much 80s, very much teenage angst, and it works. So number 1, 16 Candles. Craig, what's your number 1? Last minute change.
Yeah, I had Grease, and when I went to pull it up to look at it, it was 78. So I could do Grease too.
Grease 2 is okay, but it's not.
But yeah, so I'm in that list. Like I said, I didn't really 80s rom-coms haven't really been my thing as of late, as you can tell.
Go with Hairspray.
No. John Travolta Hairspray?
No. Well, no. I don't think
No, there's
so.
another hair. There's an old Hairspray.
There is the 80s Hairspray.
John Travolta was the mom in Hairspray.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm just gonna leave it at Grease. Screw it, because I can.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, guys, that's our top 5. Let's go and get into the movie we're talking about today, The Princess Bride, released October the 9th, 1987. Currently holds an 8 out of 10 on IMDb, 97% on Rotten Tomatoes, and 87% of the Google users have it at 87%. Starring Carrie Ellis, Mandy Patinkin, Chris Sarandon, Christopher Guest, Wallace Shawn, Andre the Giant, Fred Savage, Billy Crystal, and Robin Wright in her first feature film. Directed by Rob Reiner. Ed, I'll start off with you. Do you remember the first time you saw this and compare it to for the show?
First time I saw this, do I remember? Negative. It's been years. First time I remember, I thought it was kind of corny because I'm just like, why is this dude reading a story to this kid? And I didn't hate it, but I didn't think it was that cool. Teenage angst probably played a role in that. But you start out with Fred Savage, of course, and all that, getting read a story by his grandfather. And yeah, man, it starts out from there, goes into the story, and we get kind of carted off. But yeah, man, now I do truly like this film. I think it's a great. It's not only a great film because of what's on screen or who's on screen, but it's also a great film because of what happened behind the scenes, which it is incredibly hilarious, huh?
Elaborate.
So,
what do you mean, like the production of it?
No, well, no, but I mean, like with Andre the Giant, for that matter, and his pranks and stuff like the antics is perfect, actually. Once I think I could be underdoing this, but I think there was like a 1.5 minute long fart to where he had literally, and later on the director was like, Andre, are you okay? He's like, I am better now, boss. Yes, thank you. I heard Andre would go and get just
wasted. Yeah.
I mean, like white girl wasted at a pub that wasn't too far from where they were shooting. And I mean, like, he would literally like drink bootfuls and bootfuls of beer. But I mean, that of course apparently happened all over with that guy. So there's that. But yeah, it's just different stuff like that you hear happen behind the scenes in the everyday life. So it's hilarious.
Yeah. I first time I saw this, honestly, I didn't watch it as a kid, so I was just, kind of whatever about it. To be honest, I think the first time I saw this was 2016, maybe 2017. And honestly, I was kind of disappointed by it just because of all the hype. People just love this movie. I think you love it or you hate it.
Yeah.
And to me, it was just, it's okay. It's fine. It's a classic Zach. It's fine. But on this rewatch, I don't know. It hit me the right ways, and I enjoyed it a lot more this time. So I don't know what that says. Good movie,
maybe
stupid
on the right
I don't know. Yeah, caught on the right day.
Caught on the right day, right time, right mood.
Yeah, yeah. That's perfectly fair.
Instead of ginseng, you had Earl Grey today, and Earl Grey just happened to be the Princess Bride.
There you go. Perfect. Well, that's it, folks. We'll just end the show on that. Craig, what about you? First time watch compared to now?
Yeah. So first time watching it, I just kind of remember bits and pieces of it. I felt like I would only watch bits and pieces of it because I wasn't that into the movie, but I saw the movie in its entirety because my parents watched it that much.
Mhm.
So being able to finally sit down and watch it here just a couple years ago, um, first off, with this rewatch, I realized just how fast this movie goes by. I mean, this movie blazes by. It's only an hour and 30 minutes. Outside of the storytelling and the credits, you only get about an hour 10 of the actual on-screen film.
Do either one of you get this kind of like vibe comparatively to the Never-Ending Story with this?
Just because it's the reading of the book.
Because I mean, like that to me, it's the what is that the time setting and all that.
Yeah, they're very close to each other in when they released.
Like the medieval time type of setting.
And whenever I saw it was Rob Reiner, I just immediately think back to Dickie Roberts, former child star, because he's like the guy in that movie, and that's like really that's all I know Rob Reiner for, which is funny that's what I know him for. But
and it's funny that you said that, Ed, because the Never-Ending Story actually came first back in 1984, and then Princess Bride was 3 years later. So
this may be a parody.
Well, honestly,
it's based
I think
off of a book. So when was the book?
That's what I was going to say. Let me look real quick. And
then when was Never-Ending Story? If it was a book, when was it released?
That's funny. The book came out the year before Never-Ending Story in 1973. So that's funny. Yeah, let's get into it. I think, this is definitely a film that has a lot of sentiment to it, especially, you start off with Fred Savage and the grandfather. Fred Savage is kind of this like little boy that doesn't care, doesn't want to hear grandpa's stories, just wants to play his games.
Sports in it?
Yeah, does it have sports? Yeah. And I think, anytime, I think that's what sets it off first off is like anytime when you're young and you go over your grandparents' house and they want to tell you a story, you're just like, whatever, I don't care. That's just so relatable to everybody. Yeah. I think it just hooks you just right then and there. So,
man, so like I might be the weird one, but like I've always been in love with going over and listening to my grandpa's stories all the time, or my grandma, getting her advice on whatever, for that matter. And then on top of that, like they always watched old gunslinger westerns, so there's that.
Turner Classic Movies all day.
Somewhat actually, yeah. No, for sure.
My grandfather, it's not my step grandfather, that's all he watches, like John Wayne and, old 1920s, 30s, and 40s. It's probably
Eastwood,
Clint Eastwood.
Yep.
And then my grandmother, I would agree. I would enjoy her stories about her growing up and, just what a different life that was. Craig, did you have a similar upbringing or something similar to that?
I mean, my grandpa would always just tell me stories about when he was in the Army.
Yep.
He there was always the one where he talked about eating spaghetti and the noodle would hit him in the face and he had sauce. I don't know. My grandpa was just he was very old even when I was a kid, so his stories were very similar repetitively.
Yeah.
But they just always, I mean, that's what they grew up on. They grew up on stories. They grew up on relaying information this way. It wasn't through text or, it was all, this is what happened, and let me tell you the story of what happened. Yeah.
Gathering around the campfire and all that.
Yeah.
It's a word of mouth, the spreading of, the classic way you share a story.
Yeah.
And I think once you get into the story, honestly, you really become attached to these characters, especially with Buttercup and Wesley, who is just a farm boy.
Immediately do this. Starts off with you're just hooked on. You want to know why they're so infatuated with each other. You want to know how they came to be, and it's a great 30-second little opening window, and you're immediately just like, I want these two to succeed.
Yes.
I mean, not only that, but then it gives you Inigo Montoya and his story
Backstory.
and
Mm-hmm.
what I mean. There's a ton of it right here. Throughout it gives you characters like Vizzini,
Mm-hmm.
and Miracle Max, for that matter. There's a ton of stories and a ton of great characters, and even
Yeah.
Fezzik was Andre the Giant's character.
Yeah.
But it's kind of that thing. This guy goes along, and Wesley goes along and makes a ton of friends with his old enemies at one point.
The Man in Black.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, they all kind of don't know who he is and don't know what he's doing, but all right, you bested me, so you must be a noble person that, you didn't kill me.
And I
So why
like
not?
how it's a very ragtag group of characters. Andre the Giant, Sean Wallace, and Mandy Patinkin. They're all very different in like their characters and their mannerisms and everything. Like
Yeah.
Sean Wallace has the voice. Andre's the Giant, and Mandy Patinkin, Montoya is very much like the
Suave.
he reminds me of like the 20s and 30s movie stars, where it's just like you said, he's very suave, and he's on a mission. No matter what he's doing, he's on a mission to do something. And
It
this
feels
Doesn't
like
matter.
everything he says is a catchphrase.
exactly.
Oh
Yeah.
well, I mean,
And I also,
this. Go ahead.
well, I was gonna say the other thing I like about it is that it's almost like this movie reminds me so much of like Young Frankenstein. It's like making fun of that genre of film, the Renaissance medieval. Oh, so you're gonna get in the water with giant eels? Well, okay, like let's see how that does for you. It's making fun of the situation, I guess.
Yeah. Well, okay, because you come up to the Sicilian, for that matter, and the dialogue in that is great. I think the dialogue in that is one of the best parts of this movie. And later on, when you get the death of the Sicilian, for that matter, and Wesley basically is like, yeah, I've been building up a immunity to iocane powder for years now, so I laced both of them. And she's just like, so you know.
And the crazy thing is, I really just thought about this as I was watching the movie, is what is like the one thing in those medieval stories, Renaissance stories, that they always talk about? The morals of like skill, strength, and intellect. And each one of those, he fights Montoya, which is skill. He fights Andre, which is strength, and intellect with what's
Vizzini.
The Vizzini.
Vizzini.
So it's just like you are taken from medieval times, but you're doing it in a very cohesive and actually brilliant way of doing it. So
yeah, and it's very quick. It's like 3 trials, boom, 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 very quick. It continues the story. There's no layoff. It's kind of believable in how he does it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I watched it today, I was just like, I remembered this segment being so much longer than it was. Yeah. And it's over in like 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, the pacing of this is really good.
Because when you're a kid, all 3 of those trials seems like an hour.
Yeah.
Easily. And I mean, then you've got, the kind of tongue-in-cheek of them rolling down the hill. You've got
very, very corny, but very corny, but kind of like, that would happen in the story. You don't ever question it, and I think that's the enjoyable part about this movie.
And I mean, every character is simple, plain and put, just stubborn as hell. Because the Sicilian his big word is inconceivable, and all that. And he says it so many times, it's just like, oh my gosh.
After a while, you're like, do you even know what that means?
Like, A, exactly. Do you know what that means? B, you're stalling for time, just like Wesley says. And C, you're extremely worried about this. Like, you know, this dude's smarter than you. You know, Inigo Montoya, you know, is constantly, hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. And it's that prepare to die, you know, kind of thing. And he's searching for the six-fingered man. And, you know, then, oh my God, then you've got the Tool. I was just like, oh, like the first time I'm like, what are they doing here, man? Like,
It was
you know,
very
now,
Blazing Saddles.
Yes.
oh,
It's very well, not to that level, but
Not
very,
to that level,
very
but
Mel
the way,
Brooks.
yes, the way that they were each
the
like
dialogue.
They had characters that were just extremely
well, because
not far-fetched, but just like
exaggerated personalities.
Yes.
Well, because the woman in Blazing Saddles talked just like that, if I'm not mistaken, didn't she? Like, she would say, you know, "wov" or something like that. Like, she would talk.
She has a lisp, or they have a lisp, or something like that.
But his was like very like his mouth wasn't moving correctly, or you know what I mean? Like, it was just
I'm gonna call it baby talk in a way, especially when it's done like that. Like a lisp is one thing, that's you know, yeah, that's natural. But this is like done that way. Like, why do you?
You know, now that I say it, it is very Mel Brooks. The what was his name? The albino man.
Oh,
the guy that's in the cave that's torturing him.
Yeah.
You know, he's very. I don't know what his name. But yeah, I think his name's the albino man.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, you're right.
And he's very like, you know, he has the diseases, and he's
the albino. That's what he's called, just the albino.
Yeah. And he's like talking really weird, then he coughs, and then he has that
normal voice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree with you, Craig. I don't know why. Like, it's very Mel Brooks to the point of like it's just spoofing on those type of stories, and it works so well. I'm really surprised he didn't direct this, to be honest.
I'll tell you why he didn't.
Well, yeah, go watch Blazing Saddles, then you'll definitely know why.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, it's you know, this movie is so craftily well done. I mean, this movie only had a budget of $16 million, but it's miniatures, it's models, it's sets, it's matte paintings. It you know, it's everything classic Hollywood. In order to, you know, there's no computers back then, so we had to create stuff and create this world.
Yeah,
and it still holds up to this day, to be honest.
Organic props, man.
Yeah, like, I mean, there was times when they were running in, you know, on location. They were running through the grass or through the mountains or whatever, and I was just like, I can just sit here and imagine there's like 6 people. They're like, action, and he runs up the mountain, and then they cut. Like, it was just. Some scenes were just extremely low budgeted.
Yeah.
And you could tell. But yeah, I mean, you said $16 million. I'd say they made a fairly good product for $16 million.
Oh yeah.
The one that always cracks me up is the one where they're climbing up the cliffs, and you can clearly tell it's like a stunt double that has like prop or like fake bodies on him. That's portraying Andre.
When Andre's holding Wesley and his body's just limp, I'm like, that's just a cotton stuffed dummy.
Yeah.
And it's just a giant like teddy bear, you know what I mean? It's just body's limp and his legs are just hanging there.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's one of those things that, you know, this movie made $30.9 million, which, you know, technically in those terms, especially with the budget, that is a success.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you know, this movie, it's become obviously a cult film, and it's become considered one of the best films of the night. You know, when you say list the top 5 films of 1980s, this is definitely in the top 3 for sure, at least.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it works. You know, it's not a film that I want to go back to all the time, but, you know, I had fun with this.
Yeah.
What do you think about? Well, Speaking of Craig, props and sets, this fire swamp, when you can clearly tell it's just like pyrotechnics that come up out of like little parts of the ground or the set.
I mean, hey,
there
was some rough stuff in this movie, but when you go back and you think like, man, this was in the 80s, like it could have been much worse.
Oh yeah,
especially with a budget of 16 million. Yeah, I mean,
and of course you can't forget the rodents of unusual size, which is clearly like an animatronic puppet.
But I mean, there's a ton of stuff in that decade that we have that was inventive, and they knew what they wanted, but they didn't have the technology to pull it off truly like they wanted to.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing, because if this movie gets remade today, it's all CGI. What I can think
a fair bit of it.
I think all of us can agree that what works in this movie is the practical effects, are the settings and the locations, and the matte paintings are clearly, you can clearly tell when they're matte paintings, but it works. It just works for this type of film.
Yeah.
And I will argue to say, I don't think if a person is going to redo something like The Princess Bride, I don't think they do it in much like CGI for that matter. I think maybe 15 to 10%, 10 to 15 range is perfectly fine, But at the same time, I think that the props are the key to this movie, like you're saying. Exactly like you're saying. I think they're the key to it. And as far as going so I think it would be brought to a new level with the props and the makeup and the effects and stuff like that was organic, just because you've got talent shows now that are TV shows that are like who can create the best monster or the best alien or whatever. You literally have those. So I mean, that right there is pushing the boundaries of makeup artists and prop artists for that matter, and it's making them do bigger, better, more realistic, more grotesque, and more just vibrant things nowadays. So I think with that, I think this could be pulled off very, very well. But
I think a remake would be damned automatically, because people love this movie so much that it just wouldn't work.
Exactly, it wouldn't be something, say, Dune for that matter.
Yeah.
It would be on the opposite spectrum.
Of
that.
This is not a film that needs a remake like the original Dune. It's good for what it is.
Okay,
it's good as it is.
So when I was watching this today, and it was the part with Inigo Montoya when, God, I can't remember the exact part, but he's like kicking a chair, very like WWE-ish.
Yeah.
And he's like saying stuff, and I'm like, I would almost bet money that Jack Black pulled some of what he was doing for Nacho Libre from the Inigo Montoya character.
That's true. That's very true.
Because just like the overreaction of like the head turns and the accent,
the over dramatic.
Yes. I would bet money that he pulled some sort of inspiration for Nacho Libre from this character.
That's funny. That's really funny that you say that.
I know it's very random, but it's just like it was so out there. I was just like, man, that's very reminiscent of something, and then I was like, that's Nacho Libre.
Yeah. I mean, when you start thinking about it, it's like, oh yeah, that is a lot of the mannerisms and overacting, and it's just like, okay, yeah, that makes that makes a lot of sense.
And I mean,
it fully does.
People pull inspirations from everything. It's funny that I was able to see it and be like, man, that is exactly what I would assume. He was like watching this, and he's like, that's going to be my next character.
That gives me an idea for this, this guy. But instead of a sword fighter, he's a lucha libre, kind of thing. Yeah. Like that.
The character
that's freaking awesome.
The character that was just so abundantly random, just out of nowhere. Well, it makes sense for the plot, but like Miracle Max, Billy Crystal's character is like what? Just randomly coming out.
Look, man, this times you've got to have an old wise wizard that's kind of a crackpot, but at the same time will do the best stuff you've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
Got to.
And I love that I laughed like hard on the limp Wesley thing. It's just like hold my head up. Okay, hold on. Like I mean, it's just like
Man,
let me get
and
situated.
Andre Giant's hand on his head,
Ooh,
I was just
yes.
sitting there. I was like, dog, that dude's hand is massive.
Well, I mean, when you have a guy that makes Arnold Schwarzenegger look like he's small,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, like that's just how massive that man was. But
I mean, that dude had Red Bull cans for fingers. He was just like
12 ounces.
There's I don't know if you guys ever did. You guys ever see the HBO documentary Andre the Giant?
I never watched
not.
It's really good. Like it talks a lot about what you said, Ed, about the excessive drinking and the pranks that he would do on people, and just how a genuinely nice guy he was. You know, just fans
I
wanted
was
to
about to
just
say,
talk
yeah.
to him or just want to get an autograph. He'd be like, okay, just does it. Yeah. Overall, I mean, the physical quirky comedy of this, it just works. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not sitting there going like, this is stupid. Turn this off. You know, it just even the sword fight between Montoya and the man in the black.
Yeah.
It's actually
was
really
good.
well done. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. The it's a very tongue in cheek and cheesy movie, but where they needed to go ahead and put some of this stuff into extremely decent preparation and execution, they made out like bandits on this movie, man.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's got very good choreography. It's got good stunts. It's got funny outtakes. It's got hilarious lines, one-liners all day long. It's stupid. It's awesome. It's action-packed. I don't know. Like, you can't say too much more good about this movie. Like, there's not much more to say other than, like, if you haven't seen this, you need to. And if you don't like it, then I don't know what you're expecting.
here?
It's got a good score. The theme song of it's good. The pacing of it's really good.
Mhm.
All of the characters I feel were chosen
Necessary.
and done very well.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's no throwaway characters. I mean, even like the pastor or the priest that's doing the marriage, there's something funny about him. He's not just in there to be,
the priest.
Let's do this and get it over with. Like they're doing something to make it memorable. And I think that's another good thing. Like every part's very, I wouldn't say very different, but there's very memorable moments in literally every scene. And it makes it an enjoy to watch those scenes, and it makes it fun and memorable to go through and rewatch those scenes and be like, man, I remember when I was doing this I was watching this movie and I remember this part with my parents, or I remember this part at another time. Like just very well done.
It's very nostalgic in a way.
And then, like, even if somebody doesn't know the actual title of this movie, you can go ahead and quote probably, I'd say 3 or 4 lines, and they're gonna be like, "Oh, they're gonna."
I feel like Inigo Montoya is probably like one of the most
the main one,
number one.
Yeah.
You know the line, and you've never seen the movie, and then you see it, and you're like, "Oh, I've probably seen this movie 1,000 times." Then just by knowing this one line.
Yep.
Yeah.
I
mean, this movie is just so deeply loved that in 2016, the film was selected by the Library of Congress for its preservation in the National Film Registry. So it's culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant, which means there will always be a copy of this. And I think this film is on Criterion, so that's how much it's reached that status.
It's the historical part for me that's kind of like, what do you mean? Kind of thing. Like, I want to know who was like, this is historically like needed.
I understand. Yeah, culturally, yeah, absolutely.
Culturally, yeah.
Historical, I don't.
Historically, kind of gets me a little bit, but fair enough. Like, this is one of those movies that made the '80s. Kind of thing. Like, okay, I
defined
get it,
a generation, and
yeah,
I would agree with that. Favorite scene. Ed, we'll start with you. Is there something that just kind of sticks out that you just like? I love. That's why I like this movie.
Personally, it's the Sicilian. It's the game of death or game of chance or whatever you want to call it.
Game of wits.
Yes, game of wits. There we are. Thank you. I didn't have the wits for that.
Ding.
No, man, yeah, Game of Wits, hands down. That and that to me alone would be the best part of it, or the most kind of that scene. I'd know exactly where you're going. I'd know exactly what you're talking about or showing me every single time. So yeah.
I would say probably the Montoya and the Man in Black sword fight. Like I said, I thought it was well done. Choreography was, for what it was, I thought it was really well done. And just kind of like the quirky comedy of the film, when Wesley's limp is just like, hold my head up, or get me to look at this way. The Miracle Max characters, like I said, kind of out of left field, but it works.
Yeah.
And just kind of seeing the ragtag team of like Andre, Montoya, and Wesley kind of go after the damsel in distress, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
What about you, Craig?
I agree with you. The Montoya Wesley fight, Man in Black at that moment. It's very, he's like, just give me a minute, I'll get up there. He's like, I'm in a rush, and he's like, if you're in a rush, throw the rope down.
Yeah.
It's just the back and forth banter between them two, where it's just kind of like they're both. Wesley is the Man in Black at that point in time, just because you've seen the close up, and you're just like, they're both very men of their words.
Yeah.
And they're just like very gentleman like. He's like, no, we'll fight when you're ready. And so they sit down and they rest. And he's like, it's very kind of you. Just the ultimate sportsman-like of those sportsmanship of them two, where it was funny in that moment.
And I would say that is a good scene. Just the comedy of it. It's just like, hold on, just get a breath. I'm not going to kill you right away. Just get situated, and then we'll start fighting.
And then he's like, I'm laughing because there's something I know that you don't know. I'm not left-handed. And then they fight for a little bit, and he's like, I'm also not left-handed. And then he immediately disarms him. It's
like, what the heck? Yeah, that stuff right there is just genuine comedy. That's really it.
All right, guys.
Subtle and it's good.
Star rating 1 out of 10. I'll just go ahead and I was originally going to give this movie a 7, but I think just talking about it with you guys and just kind of just thinking about it, I'm going to raise it up to an 8. It's not a film that I want to go back and watch. Like I said, I think the last time I saw this, the first time I saw it was 2016, so more than 6-7 years ago.
Yeah.
But like you said, it was the right cup of tea when I watched it. So I'll give it an 8. What about you, Ed?
I will go a little bit higher out of 9. When I was a kid, I thought it was kind of a weird movie, kind of a little funny, but at the same time, like I didn't understand it, I guess. And now I love the movie. I think it's a great, great movie. So yeah, 9 out of 10, man.
Craig, finish us out.
Even though I enjoy this movie, I was kind of dreading rewatching it just because I've seen it. So I felt like I had seen it so many times. And then when I watched it, I was hooked. I was enjoying every minute of it. The pacing was, like I said, very good. It felt like it was just going to be. It honestly felt like a 45-minute movie. That's about half of what the runtime is. The funny parts were funny. The witty comedy was witty. The characters were great. I think it's overall just one of the, if you've seen the movie, you know exactly what it is, and it's probably in your all-time list. If you haven't seen the movie, you definitely probably have heard the title. So I'm going to give it a 9. Just overall, I think it was a really good film. Easy to watch, in and out.
Yeah.
Nothing really bad with it.
Yep. Princess Bride, you can find it on Disney Plus. Listen to our review and go watch it again. All right, guys. Next week, we are headed back to the theater for Creed 3. I think all of us at this point, really enjoyed the Creed movies. I think all of us are very anxious or excited to see what Michael B. Jordan is going to do with this one, especially since he's in the director chair. Right now, it's currently at 91% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it has an 8 out of 10 on IGN.
Man, so Ant-Man and the Wasp 2 weeks ago this Friday.
Yep.
And then he comes out with another movie, which is going to easily be the winner of the weekend, making probably $180 to $200 million this weekend.
Yep. I'm excited for it. Ed, you have any final thoughts? Princess Bride, excited about seeing Creed 3?
I am. Like you said, very intrigued in what Michael B. Jordan is going to go ahead and come out with. We'll see, what he can do for that matter in the literal director's chair. So yeah.
What about you, Craig?
Yeah, just what the first two were the first one was really good, second was pretty good, and then I feel like this one's just going to take it up another notch with how Jonathan Majors is going to be able to come in and be that opposite side of the coin to Michael B. Jordan. And we all know that Michael B. Jordan's an extremely talented actor, is able to deliver lines up there with the best of them. And I feel like Jonathan Majors equally as good, if not better, at some points. So I feel like they're really going to push each other. And I think it's just going to elevate the movie past 1 and 2. Even if the storyline's not really there, I feel like them two just bouncing off of each other is going to be extremely good.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said with you guys. I think I'm seeing it Saturday. Sometime it's on Saturday. The biggest thing, I'm very excited to see what this franchise or what this character looks like outside of Rocky Shadow. This is the first film we're not going to have Stallone as that iconic character. And we're going to see how Michael B. Jordan or as Adonis Creed does not living in his shadow and not living in his father's shadow and being his own person. Yeah, that's next week, guys. Creed 3. Go check it out in the theater. Guys, you have anything final nail in the coffin for The Princess Bride?
Nothing with The Princess Bride.
What about you, Ed?
Inconceivable. Just,
Perfect.
Nah, man.
But can we talk about movies coming out?
This month is so packed. It is crazy.
This might be one of the most stacked months in recent memories.
What do we got?
You got Creed 3 this week.
Yeah.
You have Operation Fortune, Ruse de Gloire or whatever. I mean, it has
Jason
Statham, and just a bunch of recognizable people. Jason Statham, Carrie. Coincidentally enough, Carrie Ewells, Hugh Grant, Josh Hartnett, Aubrey Plaza, Guy Ritchie, directing. You got Scream 6 here next week. Shazam! Fury of the Gods after that. Dungeons and Dragons. I don't know if you guys.
Oh yeah, that's coming out this month.
That trailer, it looks really good.
Yeah,
I'm not a Dungeons and Dragons guy, but the trailer looks really good. John Wick Chapter 4 the week before that.
Yep.
And
then also the same day as Scream 6 is 65, that Adam Driver movie.
Yeah.
And then Florence Pugh has a movie, A Good Person, with her and Morgan Freeman on the same day as John Wick Chapter 4. So it's I was telling a friend, I was like, I'm probably going to be at the movies every single weekend, at least Friday, Saturday.
I'm not an AMC spokesperson,
yeah.
But if you have that monthly thing where you get 3 movies a week, you're going to get your absolute money's worth this month.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Inside with Willem Dafoe on March 17th. I'm not sure exactly what that is, but Willem Dafoe is Willem Dafoe.
Enough said. Enough said. And I think the first Friday of April the
7th
is Super Mario Brothers. Is that true? Yep.
Yep.
And then towards the end of April is Evil Dead Rise and The Covenant. Have you seen the trailer for this with Jake Gyllenhaal? It's like a military film.
Uh-uh.
It looks pretty good. It's actually directed from Guy Ritchie too. So he has 2 movies back to back.
Well, and then April 14th, you have Renfield.
Oh yeah, that's all the Dracula movie. Yeah,
the Dracula movie. The Pope's Exorcist
with Russell Crowe.
Evil Dead Rise on the 21st. I mean,
and then Guardians is May the 5th. So yeah,
these 6 weeks dating back to Ant-Man. That is a massively packed. Like, movies aren't going to get the credit they deserve. They're not going to get the box office they deserve because of everything coming out right now. Like, you could go through and look at 65 is probably going to make $25 million this weekend, and it could be an outstanding movie. Not this weekend, but March 10th.
And that's its biggest competition is Scream 6. I mean, it's coming out the same day.
The second weekend of Creed 3.
Yeah. Did you mention Supercell? Considering what we just actually went through.
I don't see it on here.
It should be March 17th, Supercell.
What is it, Supercell?
Yeah, basically about tornadoes and all that.
March 17th, yeah.
Yeah.
Champions with Woody Harrelson.
Yeah, that looks like ridiculous.
Like, you could easily see 2 or 3 movies a week in the month of March and be entertained with every single one of these. Every single one of these looks like a very, very promising film.
Oh yeah,
and like you said, Craig, between March the 3rd to May the 5th, there's almost something coming out every single weekend, and that, like I said, I mean, if you're a movie fan, you're probably going at least once or twice during the weekend, you know. But speaking of, we'll go ahead and announce our schedule for the month of March. March 6th, Creed 3. We're doing 2 back-to-back in-theater movies. March the 13th, we're doing Scream 6. And March 12th is the Oscars. And depending how the Oscars turn out, we'll either do The Fabelmans, if it wins Best Picture, Steven Spielberg's new movie, on the 20th, or do The Big Lebowski as one of those 2 films. But either way, the 20th is either Big Lebowski or Fabelmans, and the 27th is either or.
Where's Fabelmans? Is it out or is it on?
I want to say the Fabelmans. Part of me thinks you can watch it on Peacock. I think. Let's
see. And let's talk about Cocaine Bear.
That was number. Well, no, it was number 2 at the box office behind Ant-Man, but
it's getting some really good reviews.
Which is bonkers because I don't know what to think about that.
It's getting like 80 to 85% of like critics, and I think like 85 to 90%
audience score.
Audience.
Huh.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, I read the true story about Cocaine Bear, and it's like that bear. There was a bear that ingested a whole bunch of cocaine, but it didn't kill anybody because he ingested so much that it killed him automatically.
But it's the what if story.
Yeah.
And do you know who directed it?
Elizabeth Banks, which is so weird.
The Pitch Perfect director, Elizabeth Banks. Yeah.
Yeah, 70% on Rotten Tomatoes, 75% audience score. So
so it dropped a little bit.
Yeah. But that's going to be it for us today, guys. Like I said, Creed 3 next week here on the Cinema Movie Podcast. Everyone be safe. Everyone have a good weekend, good week. And we will see you guys next week. Bye.
Later.